Okay, we are live.
Excellent. Excellent. Got
And
to
I
mute
had this
myself.
scheduled up so people should know.
Yeah.
But for those who are watching, welcome to Gargoyle's Blade. My name's Alex, and I have with me John from By the Sword.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me on. Much
Oh, I'm
appreciated.
glad you could be on. I mean, so you're the first person I thought of because you've had me on your lives like twice. And I thought it'd be kind of crummy not to invite you in my latest live. And I haven't done one of these in like a very long time.
Yeah, I needed to get more time to do more like Sword Tuber live ones too, and get you back on there because I've had a couple things that I wanted to talk about. I have a few other Sword Tubers across the YouTube world that I want to get on as well. Just as I was saying prior to the stream, getting that time in has been difficult for me to schedule everything. So most of my live streams now have just been me outside cutting things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, life comes first.
For sure.
You know, and things happen.
Nice. Saying hi to the chat. I see we got a couple people already in there. Samurai Bird's in there.
Yeah. What's
Shift
up, Bird?
Zed, hey. Excellent. That's
So
guy right
tonight's
there.
live is about for everybody, so you can know the type of steel that we have for our swords and how they've held up and performed for us as far as like durability, edge retention, things like that nature. Not too much going into the composition of it because that gets sometimes can get very complicated and confusing at times. So we're just talking about how 5160 and what was it, 60?
6150.
So yeah, it can be very confusing. You can get it mixed up very easily because the numbers are so similar to one another. Yeah. So that's pretty much what this live is about. And John and myself are talking. And John, why don't you tell everyone why you don't like you're kind of disappointed in the SX 105V?
Yeah. So
let's start with that one.
Okay, let me pull that one out. I have it right over here. This was the SX 105V from Cloudhammer, if anyone's ever seen that. I know Cloudhammer has quite a few katana in SX 105V, but this was one of their later long swords that they had that actually looked pretty good on the outskirt. Like I know one of their first SX 105V and their S5 swords I didn't like the look of because they were what typical Chinese makers do at the start. And I just say this, not to say anything bad about different Chinese makers because they often get things right over time. But generally, the first time you get into a particular type of sword that they don't have experience with, it tends to be like European-like, but there's a lot of stuff where you're like, yeah, no, it's not.
And they're just now getting into the market of that.
Yes. And they have actually improved exponentially. And even Cloudhammer has improved exponentially from their first ones. Their first ones had the kind of a look of a European sword if you looked at it from far away. But more often than not, it was like a Xi'an blade with a European-ish cross guard and pummel-ish type thing. This one was actually pretty good. Very long grip, though. Something a little strange for the type of sword that it is. Being a 16A would not have quite had a grip this long. It wasn't uncommon for European swords to be re-hilted, but it's a little crazy because this type of hilt configuration, and I talked about this in the review I did of this thing, would have been a very late high medieval period, almost going into the Renaissance once you get into the side ring thing and this fishtail pummel. But here's the issue that I have with this blade. So this SX 105V, when I first got this thing, and I've only ever cut with this blade on the channel. I never took it off channel and, cut through hundreds and hundreds of bottles or tatami or, space and time. Oh, it's not a katana, so you can't do that anyway. But, I never did anything like that with it. It was only on the channel. So every cut was represented on my channel. When I first got it, And in certain parts, it is sharp. It's actually, I could feel it through the glove down here in the fort of the blade. That's not where you cut.
Yeah.
Where I haven't cut, it's very sharp, and it was cutting through bottles like they weren't even there. I remember doing a live stream out when we had that big snowstorm, and this is one of the swords I was using. Didn't have any issues. When I actually got to record the cutting footage, this was probably one of the most pitiful attempts I've ever seen at cutting tatami. Like it was tearing more than anything. And I'm like, well, maybe it was me. Maybe it wasn't, you know, like, you can have your off days.
Yeah.
But I recorded 4 different swords on that day. And this wasn't even the last one in the list. This was the second one. No, first one on the list. So I was fresh at that point, and it cut worse than the one that I cut last with. It wasn't cutting through tatami. Bottles, it was smashing rather than cutting through. And you could feel up here, it's dull. Like,
wow.
It's dull. Like I'm trying to get it in camera so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Like this is dull now. This was supposed to have really good edge retention, and where the point of percussion is, you know, like
there's no edge now.
No. Now, if I came down here and did that, I'd probably cut through my glove because but it still has edge geometry. So like you could cut yourself with some force, but clearly this is
on a really hard target. It's not going to do anything.
Yes. And I was told that this type of sword was supposed to have a really good edge retention. Very, you know, like it was supposed to hold an edge. And I had so many issues, not just with the edge, but I have the cross guard. You probably can't hear it now, but this cross guard is loose. Everything started coming apart on this sword. That's a construction issue.
Yeah.
And you know, I could fix it if I reheated the peen and put it back down, but it was something I don't think I should have had to do.
No.
But even if I was going to rip off all the fittings and remount it, I was insanely this thing probably cut 1 tatami mat and maybe 20 bottles tops. 20, and that's being generous. I don't even think it made that many. And
it should be able to do a lot more than that.
Right. Like I said, and you can go back and count, because every single time I cut with this, never once did I cut with this where it wasn't recorded and put on my channel. You can cut or count every bottle, every single target I ever cut with this sword. And like I said, it's less than 20 bottles, maybe 2 or 3 pool noodles, and 1 tatami mat. And the tatami mat I cut was during the cutting footage for this thing, and it was terrible, because you know how tatami mats have white fibers going through them. So when it was cutting through, it was kind of cutting, because again, it does have edge geometry. You know, you could get almost anything through a mat with enough force. And I mean, I really had to swing for the fences in order to get this through. But because it's not sharp enough to cut, it was just pulling the fibers, and they were bent over and ripped.
Yeah.
So I was insanely disappointed, because it was razor sharp when I got it from RVA Katana. Like I was slicing bottles where I was getting statics, like perfectly clean, and it dulled in a matter of no time whatsoever. Though I did have a concern with this one, even right off the bat, and it might have been nothing. And it's really hard to see. I don't have quite the light. Oh, I could see it right now, actually. It almost looks like a stain, but there is a point on the blade right here. From here to, actually, you can see it. You see how
I can.
That's a different color of steel. That's not a stain. Like, is the heat treatment off on that part because it's different?
Could be.
I'm not sure, but you could see it, especially like right here. Down here, it's darker. Down here, and right here, about the size of a golf ball.
Yeah, because you don't get heat treat right. You can, a lot of times the discoloring is the molecules in the steel is being destroyed.
Mm-hmm. I saw that the second I got it.
Bird said it's through hardened. I wouldn't have through hardened SX 105V. It's a big difference from differentially hardened, and it is, because SX 105V you can differentially harden. That's the beauty of it. Whereas like S5 you can't. But still, with you not going really crazy, cutting like 50, 60 hard targets or even bottles with it, it should still have a decent edge on that, because
and
I
Samurai
have
Bird might be right about I might have got a bad heat treatment, but this is what you and I talked about earlier. Because this steel isn't used much, the expertise of getting that heat treatment is as much of a science as it is of some of the others. This was a mistake they had. And it's not like they sell a ton of these, really. Like SX105E is only Cloudhammer. Like, they're the only ones who do it. So
they could have messed up on the heat treat, because this sword right here, this is my Drem sword that I got. And it's a 9260. And I cut a lot with this sword when I first got it. I mean, a lot of stuff. I try to use my swords up a lot. I've never sharpened it. And it still will cut through hard targets right now. So it could be that you got a bad heat treat one.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's why it's not holding that edge like it should.
And that is something I pointed out, because I'm like, given what everyone else was telling me, when I said what happened, people looked at me like I was nuts. Like, that shouldn't have happened with SS105. I'm like, I agree, but it did.
Yeah. Because I was looking at your channel, like I said, I wanted to bring that up, see how it was for you. I looked up the edge retention on that, and it says SX105V will actually hold its edge longer than even an S5.
Yeah.
It's supposed to hold a really, really good edge. So, granted, yes, differentially through hardened don't retain the edge as long as a differentially hardened, but it should still hold it longer than
the Rockwell is also lower than a differentially hardened too, because you can't get it.
There is a difference between the two. I don't think it's a huge margin though. No. It also depends on the targets that you're cutting.
Right.
You know, but still, from what you're saying, that edge should still be there.
I should have that with a 1060. 20 bottles, one tatami. It shouldn't even, the more softer steel, like 1060 is a good steel, but generally it's softer. It doesn't hold quite the edge.
That one definitely you're going to use the edge up quicker for sure.
Yeah, but I shouldn't be dull in 20 water bottles, maybe soda bottles. They're a little thicker than water bottles, but still 20 water bottles. Maybe three pool noodles and one tatami.
And pool noodles is not even going to deteriorate that.
No. I mentioned it solely because I did cut through them, but you're right. Yeah, pool noodles.
With you saying there's this different coloring into the blade, it could be very well the heat treat was off, and they should have caught that.
Yeah,
they should have seen that
like
discoloring.
You saw it
on
the camera in my light, and my light's not good.
Yeah, that should have never
in the sunlight.
Not even for a sample should have had left.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it was when I pulled it out. It was second I unboxed it. I looked at it and I saw this bright spot where the steel was a different color. And I'm like, that ain't good. Like that was the first thing I saw. And I'm concerned, but that's the way it came. So I'm not real impressed with it, and unfortunately, it didn't get a really good review from me because of that.
Yes, Bird asked if you mentioned it to John.
I sent the review to John. In fact, actually, my review, my scoring metric was John getting banned by TikTok. I don't know whether or not he actually saw it. I know. Oh crud, is his name Steve? Steve, I think that's the other guy who works there.
I'm not sure.
I might be wrong on that. I'm sorry, but I know one other guy did, because I was actually talking about, hey, could I post this in the RVA Discord? I know there's like a review section, but I wanted to ask permission first. I never got permission to post it, but he said he watched it, so I never posted it. Scott, thank you, Scott. So Scott watched it. So yeah, I don't know if they did anything with it or not, but I might try to point it out to John again and be like, guys, like this, you saw me right here in our video right here. Like I was fervently running my hand over it. It's
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
that is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, down at the bottom, I wouldn't do that. That would hurt. I didn't cut there.
Because it's like, okay, the European sword that my wife got me, which I have fun with. I got to take it out some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, once on one side, the edge is sharp. Then you run your hand on the other side, and you could tell there's no edge. Now, I think it was David said a lot of European swords sometimes are sharpened that way. So one side would have an edge, the opposite side won't have an edge. Like I said, this whole European sword thing is new to me. So I like I said, I don't know, but still, it cuts really good, even though one side of the blade is sharp and then the top side won't be sharp. And it's the same for the opposite side.
So here's the thing. And this is in modern reproduction swords. Generally, that's not the case. At least in something like this, I'll show this one off. This is a review will be coming out for this one. This is an Azure Forge. This is their 18A, their Slosh Rock. I know I mispronounced that. This is sharp on both sides. But the thing with I love you too, babe. I'm live. Thank you. Everyone heard you. My lady just was very loudly on my phone. I love you, babe. Man, everyone heard that. I'm not embarrassed or anything. No, I don't care. It's no problem.
You shouldn't be.
I'm not at all. It's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. I love her too. That's great. But on a European sword that is prior to the Renaissance period with the cross guard, there is a true edge and a false edge. True edge is the one that faces the enemy. False edge is the one that faces you. But because there's no way really to differentiate, they generally made both of them the same. When you get into later Renaissance period swords, where they started adding complex hilts, and of course, as I try and get this into the scabbard here, the SX here, this one's perfect. The SX 105V, here's a perfect example of a sword that you could most definitely have a true edge and a false edge, because the ring would protect the side of your hand. So, of course, this is the proper way to hold it. You could sharpen one edge versus the other. Though, depending on the type of swordsmanship you do, like I do with German swordsmanship, Zwerkal, there's a lot of, and even other ones like Marazzo and stuff like that. Marazzo is one of those treaties that actually really emphasizes a lot of false edge cuts all the time. Everything is advanced with false. It's almost annoying how much he loves the false edge. So having a sharp on both sides, it was a very common thing. And again, it could be on person to person. If you really didn't want the sharp edge or whatever, you could. But
well, I'm going to put an edge.
Oh, I would. Yeah.
I will
Emblem
say,
Arms, I see chat. Tell her chat loves her too.
Yep. We all love her.
Yeah.
But I will say that 65, because we were talking about this earlier too. I do like that 65M manganese.
Mm-hmm.
It is a durable blade, and it's like I said, I've cut with it, and like one side is sharp, the top side won't be sharp, but it still just blows right through targets.
Yeah. If your edge geometry is there, that's the important part. If you have a good edge geometry, it's easy to blow through targets. And of course, even putting a better one on there. And thankfully, a lot of these, especially Chinese reproduction companies, because let's be frank, that's where most of the budget swords come from.
Oh, yeah.
Are these Chinese reproduction companies. I'll give it to them. Their edge bevels are beautiful. Like it's tiny now. So even if it comes to you to the point where it's blunt or, sharpened blunt, like you could do damage if you hit something with it, but it's not hair popping. It doesn't take long. I have you can't see it now, but over here I have like a 1000 6000 grit whetstone. I took the 65 MN that I cut hundreds of bottles with, and it was starting to lose its edge. I did it on a live stream. I think it was an hour live stream, and it wasn't even me doing it the whole time. I was chatting with people, so I might have done 30 minutes of work on a whetstone. That thing is so hair popping sharp now because the edge geometry was just perfect. It took no time to get it back.
And with it being because European swords have more of a distal taper, obviously, than a katana. And 65M, it has that flexibility to it, And that's the nice thing about it. When I cut with it, you don't feel that flex in the blade. You don't feel any vibration. Like, was it Diltrax Live when I brought up has Honshu has horrible vibration down into that handle. With that thing, I have nothing swords, like that.
2 swords that I hate. One is a Honshu, and one's an old Ronin katana. If they were the only weapons I had to choose in a life or death struggle, I would choose death. Like, just kill me now.
I'm with you on that. If I had to rely for my life with the Honshu, I'd stick my head in a wildcat's mouth.
Yes, absolutely. I hate that Honshu. I hate it with a passion.
Now, I will admit, I'll be honest. I've said this before. I love the look of the Honshu tactical katana. It's got a sleek look to it. I don't care for the guard, because the way you're supposed to open a katana, your thumb's right over where the blade's going to be. I like the look of it, but then it's like they almost had a good sword and went, screw it, and dropped it. Just stopped, Mm-hmm. And so I can't really, it's a love-hate almost with it. I love the way it looks, but I won't cut with a damn thing.
Here it is.
I won't even give it away to people because I don't want them to think
I wouldn't do it
how
either.
A sword is.
Yeah. This right here, this is their tactical broadsword, as they call it. This is the thickest freaking crossguard I've ever seen in my life.
Is that 1060?
Yeah, it is. It's 1060. Now they use stainless steel up here. The way they did the stupid scabbard, it takes like 2 people. I don't even know if I can draw the sword, to be honest. It gets stuck all the time. Maybe I'll get it.
Don't cut yourself.
That's if I can get it out of the scabbard. That's the problem. I don't even know if I can. Like it is the worst sword I can't even get it out.
Yeah, you'd be dead by now.
Yeah, I'd be dead if I could. But not only that, this tactical pistol grip. This is what it looks like. This was meant to be. Oh yeah, this. I don't. Okay, so like pistol grip. Does it move in your hand? No. When you cut something, those little diamonds cut into your hand. You will rip your hand apart using this stupid pistol grip. Because I don't know about you, pistol grips aren't meant to be used as melee weapons. Yes, you could pistol whip somebody, but it's not meant to be that way. This tears your hand apart when you cut with it. It hurts you so bad.
Do you get a vibration in the handle if you cut with it?
Yes. This whole thing shakes. This whole thing shakes. If I were to, and I've tightened it down because it's a hex nut construction. Yeah. I've tightened, and again, I don't know why they do this. I'll tell you why they do this, because they do a rat tail tang thing for here. So then they have to put these secondary bolts in here, which is probably safe because this thing is broken off. Not mine, but I've seen other people's. This handle construction, all of this is terrible.
Yeah,
absolutely terrible.
And that's the thing. Okay, it's definitely the way it's designed, and probably the thickness. Because my very first functional sword my wife got me was the Musashi Last Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is like now 22, 23 years old. Still have it. Still works great. 1060 blade does not vibrate in the hands.
Yeah.
So it's not the material.
No, it's their construction methods.
Yeah. Oh my God. It is so.
I'm determined to get this blade out of here. Working up a sweat just trying. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Now that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is awful. Like,
and honestly, the sad thing is,
like a club.
The sad thing is 1060 is a good material to use. It's not gonna hold an edge as long as higher grade steels. No. But it's good to play around with. But creating these things that they created, is a really a disservice to swords.
If someone were to pick this up and swing it around, think this is how a European sword should feel, Yeah, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
I would say the European sword my wife got me would be more on par, even though maybe it's not like historically accurate.
There's things that aren't historically accurate, but
Yeah.
I've seen you cut with yours. I would take that any
Yeah, and
day
it's
over this one. Any
I
day.
will say it is nicely balanced. Like we were talking about, the most of the weight goes towards the hilt.
Here's the thing: most of the weight goes towards the hilt on this one too, and it still there's still a balance because of how the blade is.
Yeah,
because
like
of
you
how
can't control it.
Yes, you're right. It feels whippy. Like it's this one's not as point centric like it should be. I don't know how you can bring the weight back into the handle and yet still make it so you can't tell where the point is on this sword, but they did it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't just wait. This will be my most negative review if I ever get to this sword. Well, this one or this one. I'm pulling it out. I have swords everywhere. This is now, to be fair, I generally don't. A lot of people don't like Ronin Katana for a lot of reasons. This is a very early sword. I almost don't even want to do a review on it because their newer ones are better. This one is terrible, like absolutely terrible. This is one of their Crusader ones. And one of the reasons why, it looks nice, roughly, and it's not quite what it should be for the time period. The handle's way too long. This should have been like a Type 12, maybe. And one thing that Chinese producers always do, you'll see it's a diamond cross section up here.
Yeah.
Type 12 swords were lenticular, not diamond. Diamond didn't come in for another 200 years. But again, they only know how to make diamond cross sections in most cases. But one thing I want you to look at here, look how thick that blade is. You tell me when you start seeing distal taper.
Yeah, it's pretty thick almost all the way through.
It never changes. I mean,
and what material is it?
Honestly, I'm not even 100% sure. I don't think it's 65 MN. I think it's like 1070, I think.
Okay.
I'm not.
And 1070 is not a bad material, but
no,
dang.
I've cut with it. It's got surface scratches. The blade's held up, but it feels like a crowbar because it's not a sword.
When you make them swords too thick, you make them too unruly. Because really, swords aren't meant to be thick all the way through. Specific ones.
No. So this is the two-handed medieval longsword model number 2. This sword I had to look it up, was 1075 spring steel. I was close. That was good. Off memory. Harden 1075 is what this is.
Yeah, and with it being a spring steel, you really don't need that thick.
No. But then again, they don't have any concept of distal taper. At least not, they do now. They didn't then. You also have to look at a lot of Japanese swords. If they made it off of a Japanese sword, katanas don't have a whole lot. So if they were like, well, if katanas don't have a lot, European swords must not either, just different shape. No, there's a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what,
nuance.
that new katana I got, the 5160, it's got a nice distal taper to it. I mean, it's nimble in the hands.
Let me show you this one too. You want to talk about distal taper? This is I have to put other gloves on. I'm going Michael Jackson. Actually, I'm not. I was Michael Jackson earlier. I wear these, as I told Alex, so I don't have to oil them up every time after I'm done touching them. This is the Generation 1 Kriegsmesser from Baylor Arms.
Oh.
My son loves this one. See how thick it is here? This is the base. It thins up so much. There is so much distal taper between right here. You could see it as it goes down my face. Look how much it's tapering. Like this sword is so nimble. It is a lot of fun. Now, obviously, I'm left-handed, so this is a right hand. I should be using this hand. So the nagel goes off here, but I'm left-handed, so it goes on the side.
I hear Kriegmasters cut like a dream.
Oh, this thing now. It does cut amazingly because, again, I don't want to say it's a katana because it's not. Geometry's actually, you know what? The blade geometry is a Hero Zakuri blade geometry. It's that wedge. Like you see that wedge? Like it has a fuller in it, but it's that wedge all the way through. It essentially cuts like a Hero Zakuri.
Yeah,
and
was
Hero Zakuri cut well,
Yeah, was it Outlaw said a Krieg Macer is if a European sword and katana had a child, that would be the Krieg Macer.
Yeah, and this even comes with a false edge. Now this isn't sharpened, but of course it does add some geometry to the point.
Yeah,
obviously, because now you got almost that. Hold on, the iris leaf. What is that? What is that blade geometry?
Oh, shobu.
Shobu. Yeah, look at that. The line goes right up to the tip, just like a shobu. On here, you see the?
That's nice. And what's that? What's the material on that one?
This one is, I believe, 65 mn. They use 65 mn. Baylor Arms is the Cult of Athena brand, but it's the outsourced like an OEM to.
So you're gonna have a hard time breaking that thing. If
yes. Now I do have,
but that's a nice sword
with this cross guard right here. They made this square, so it bites into your hand. I'm actually going to redo it. I'm taking it down to a grinder and I'm rounding this off, and then I won't have any issue with it.
Yeah, she have a little bit of radius on there.
Yeah, they like here. You can, I'll put it up to the camera and you can see how square that is, how sharp.
Yeah.
I don't know what the design decision for that was, but I'm taking it down and I'm going to grind that down so it's soft. And then this thing, it cuts. It's so much fun to cut with. It is. But yeah, it's got a tip like a Shobu Shikuri does, and a blade geometry similar to a Hiro Shikura. So it's a cutter, and you wouldn't believe that one.
I love a good Shobu.
Yeah, so do I. I'm not even a huge katana fan anymore, and I still love a Shobu, and a beautiful Shobu. I'm all for it. Yeah.
So what other swords you had with different material you've had good experiences with, though?
So yeah, I do have quite a few. Obviously,
how about the one that you helped Swordist develop?
Yes, this one right here. That was the one I was grabbing first. So Swordier uses two different types of steels generally. They use 65 MN and they use 60 SI2 MN. So it adds a bit of silicone, which from what I understand, aids in the flexibility. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what the silicone does.
Yeah, it does.
All right, see, I got it right. Awesome. Little gold star for me. Happy day. But yes, this one has been so much fun. I do notice that the 60 SI2 gets surface scratches a little easier than the 65 MN. But Alex, you and I talked about this even in the if you use your sword, you're never getting away from surface scratches.
No.
It's just how bad they look. And a lot of time a surface scratch is only cosmetic.
Yeah.
If it's deep enough to cause a problem, it's probably a heat treat issue if it digs in that deep, in which case you have a whole other series of issues. It has nothing to do with the steel. It has to do with the steel, but not the steel type. You got bigger problems.
Yeah, if it's a deep gouge in your blade, I wouldn't use it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's clearly something structurally wrong with how they prepared the blade. Don't use it anymore. I do notice that surface scratches do tend to appear in these a little bit more. Like you could probably see just a hair.
I see a little nick there. A little scratch.
But it's so fine. You really have to look for it in order to see it. But otherwise, in terms of actual use, I've been cutting with this one. Now I put a better edge on it. It took me 20 minutes on my Ken Onion Work Sharp, and I was just playing with it on a low belt set. I didn't even do I think I did a medium grind at first for just like a couple passes, and then I went to a fine grit belt just to finish it up. 20 minutes to do this length of sword. That's a long sword. Yeah, the whole thing. And this thing cuts like a dream. So other than some of the, like I said, the surface scratches which are a little bit worse than the 65 MN, like generally, it holds up well. Like now I can grab the other one over here, which I will do. If you guys remember, the very first review that I did on my channel was on this sword. This sword probably has more cuts on it than any other sword that I even have, because it's just really fun to cut with. This is 65 MN, and you will see there are some surface scratches on the blade. Very, very few. Very, very few. This thing has cut hundreds of bottles, couple tatami. Like, I have done a ton of cuts with this thing, and I didn't start seeing surface scratches on it until, like, you could probably see there's just actually, that might even just be dirt. That's not even a surface scratch. It's just dirt on this blade for quite a while. This 65 MN really does hold up. Like, you could, it's kind of hard to see in this light, but right here at the point of percussion, there are surface scratches. But they are so light and fine, you really have to look for them.
Yeah, and that stuff is like we were saying prior. 65M and MN is like really tough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a hard time breaking that.
Yep,
for sure. Even my European sword that my wife got me, it barely has any scratches in it.
No,
but yeah, all steels, even like T10, because the tungsten is just going to reduce the scratches. It's still going to get fine scratches in it. Mm-hmm. No steel will ever not have a scratch in it.
Right.
It's all going to have little minor scratches. But yeah, that's 65. And the difference between like M and M of the 65 series is just one has more silicon than the other. Mm-hmm. They're both a flexible blade.
Yes.
That's it. That's the only difference between the two.
And when you're talking about, and you know this better than anyone, but when you're talking about more than the other, we're talking fractions of a percent more in most cases. It's not wild. This might have 0.8%. This one might have 0.7, 0.85.
Yeah, it's not a huge margin at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why they did that was, like I said in my video, manganese steel is also known as Hadfield steel. Mm-hmm. You can't make it out of Hadfield steel. So they kind of changed the chemistry enough that you could put an edge on it, but not enough to change it from being manganese. It's still manganese, because Hadfield steel, really, if you want to know how tough it is, look at a railroad track.
Yeah.
That's what they're made out of. And how often do they change those?
Well, how often, when I first started wanting to get into blacksmithing, there's so many people saying, go get a piece of railroad tie if you can get your hands on it, because you'll pound on it all day and you'll never hurt it, like, go nuts.
Yeah.
And I see,
it's impressive stuff.
Or Luke from MMR said, I'm thinking about the Baylor arms. This is the generation 1. This is when they still had the different colors. If you want a messer, I would highly recommend the Baylor arms one. Like, I haven't done a full review on it. I will, but it's fun. The only complaint I have is their cross guard, but take some sandpaper and soften up the stupid square thing at the top, and
or a file.
Yeah. Throw it on belt.
Yeah, that thing looks nice.
It's nice. It's fun to cut with. Yeah. So this is one of the things that it's interesting about the internet. Like, I have all these sword friends, and I'm like, I wish we were all closer, because I would love you guys to try this Baylor arms. Just like bring it around, be like, hey, cut this. And
I bet you it's fun.
It is
a fun one to cut.
A lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will admit, my European sword, because it's different, it's not a katana, it took me a little bit to get used to.
As it would.
Yeah. But it didn't take me very long to get it down.
One of my guys, I don't watch as often, but I do like him. The Let's Ask Shogo guy.
Yeah,
he's really good. He's good because I love Japanese culture and stuff, but I don't care as much. Obviously, it's not but he does some really cool stuff. But he did a series where he took like the European swords, like he was asking these different senseis to use like European swords, and the guys picked it up remarkably quick. He's like, they didn't quite get the cross guard. He's like, I'd like it better if it was this other direction or whatever. But like, a lot of the sword moves are transferable. There's some stuff that's a little weird, like Depending on how long your crossguard is, these overhand strikes, as it were, are a little harder because you might whack your head if you're not really familiar. But
and really, that's because human mechanics is all the same.
Correct. Yes, your body can only move so many ways. Therefore,
so if you look at whether it's Japanese or Chinese swordsmanship, and then you look at European, they're almost the same moves.
Mm-hmm.
They just have little tweaks and variations to them because of the style of the sword.
Right.
That's about it.
And and the way that European swords handles with the double edge, and that's not all European swords, because obviously you have saber, you have falchions, you have messers that act differently with single edges. But Japanese also had the two-edged swords, the Moro Hazakuri. So therefore, I'm sure they would have treated the both edges a little differently, because there are.
And then you
edges.
and then you got a curved blade compared to a straight blade. Straight blade, a lot of times, was developed for piercing because you had to get into armor, hence the extreme taper on the sword.
Yep.
Whereas curved sword is more for slashing. But the only, I would say, advantage, especially if you have something like a tachi, for a curved sword, if you went up against somebody with a shield, the curved sword, you can actually reach around and get them.
One of the most feared weapons that the Romans hated was the Dacian falx. It was curved. Now it was a inverse curve. It curved the other way. But that falx could go over their shields, and they hated the Dacian.
So
falx.
that would be the only one up to having a curved blade.
And you see that a lot with saber work too. Like you will see them doing these moves, and you can whip.
Now, granted, on the flip side, though, European blades would tend to be a lot longer than a Japanese blade.
Yeah, you could get around
unless you got
blade,
into the nodachis. Yeah. I'm talking just standard size.
Yeah,
because standard size for European, a lot of them were a lot longer, and that was considered standard.
True.
So you have your pros and cons.
You have to look at time period in Japanese history as well. As I'm sure you know, the Sengoku period, there was as much restriction. When you get into Edo, then they started going, well, no, blade can only be this long and no longer. And there were a lot more rules in place. Now, that happened in Europe too, much later, but it did happen. But like Sengoku and earlier periods in Japanese history, there was more variance in blade length because there were restrictions.
During that, and then also they were transitioning away from the tachi too. Because the tachi,
I don't know why you would. Tachi was fantastic.
And the tachi, the normal standard length for those was actually 32 inches long blade.
Still a little longer than most European swords.
Yeah, and that was because you were sitting on a horse.
True.
So you can slash downward.
Yeah.
So you could slash and follow through with it and come back around.
To be completely fair, like obviously, even in today's standards, with some exceptions, Europeans, especially Northern Europeans, tended to be a bit taller too than most Japanese, even today. Now there are obviously exceptions. There's exceptions across the board. We were making fun of some other friends and I, when we were looking at Marazzo and stuff like that, we were talking about how the Italians at the time probably didn't go past like 5'6" and whatnot. So then they come up to the giant Germanic tribes and Norwegians that were even a little closer to that point. So,
well, my mom was like 5'2", 5'3", and she was from Italy.
5'2", 5'3".
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So,
but she's fierce.
My next
you don't
European
mess with
sword. My next European sword, because like I said, my mom came from Italy, is going to be an Italian longsword.
Ah, nice. Yeah. So the Italian longswords, as they were, there were a lot. And honestly, you want to know something interesting? One of the most favorite sword of cutters today, the 18C, that we have extant copies of, such as the Alexandria, are believed to come from Milan. Actually, they were Italian. Yeah.
My mom,
made anywhere else.
Unfortunately, she came from northern, near the Italian Swiss Alps.
Well, that's actually where my family came from too. We were on the other side, though. We were on the German side of the Swiss Alps, but yeah.
So, anyways,
what is now modern day Switzerland. It was
Yeah.
actually, but back then the northern part was part of Germany, Holy Roman Empire, which is just the southern parts. And then they had this
the
weird
Germanics.
they had their own little states period thing, independent. But the Holy Roman Empire was nothing but it fractured states. Like it wasn't even a whole thing. It was a bunch of different principalities, and then they had the free cities in what is now.
Oh yeah, was it? It was until way later that Italy was actually unified.
Oh yeah, Switzerland didn't even become a country till what 18th century or something like that. It was way later.
That's why people joke that Italians talk with their hands, because they actually had to, because they all spoke different languages at one time.
Oh yeah, Latin.
It was like 3 different languages or something.
Yeah.
So they would use hand gestures, and it just moved on down the line.
I see people, Tempest saying, I love the length of longsword, took some getting used to, but man, I love the reach. A lot of people say that. I actually, when I'm in class, I have a very long fetter. It's based off of a 20A, which of course is my favorite. It's a Krieger Armory. Shout out Sean Krieger if he ever watches this. I will do the review on it, my friend. I'm getting there. I'm currently, I have a backlog that's like 14 swords deep at the moment. So it's a little long. But it's really funny because I have people in class who are using shorter versions of long swords, and I have such a reach advantage with that thing. It is fantastic. Like we're trying to enter into measure, and these guys have these short little, I swear they're not much more than arming swords. So I joke with them, like enter into measure to where your blade can touch each other. And I'm like, I'm already like through their neck, and they're like still swinging with like 6 inches to go.
Well, yeah. It's like the Nadachi Tone Def sent me. I had to readjust my distance with that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is, if you're used to cutting with, I would say a standard length, 28, maybe 30-inch blade, and then you go to like 36.5 or whatever, that's a big change. And you really have to learn to adjust your distance.
So I have 2 swords here. Both of these are from Azure Forge. One of them, I already did a video, but I'm not releasing it because I decided not to, because they're not releasing this one. This is their Kingmaker one. This has it's 41 inches in length. This is an arming sword, so it's a one-handed arming sword.
Yeah.
But it is 41 inches in length. This thing's got some serious reach to it. I have their other arming sword, which is their X00. And this thing is like 36 inches or something like that. So if you look at the tips of I'm going to line them up here.
If you get it in frame.
If I get it in frame, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a difference.
There's a lot of difference. I have to get very close with this sword. Now, this is a fun thruster, though. I'll give it that. I really enjoy this one for thrusting. It's a more modern approach of a sword. They didn't make it look historical. It's modern, but it's still a fun blade to use for a backyard cutter. A lot of fun. But even arming swords had a lot different length. This would have been a fairly small one, whereas this one was exceptionally long. Like this is 38-inch blade. This blade is almost as long as some of my long swords. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised when I first got it. Let's see. Love my 41-inch arming sword. Yeah, a lot of people like long arm. Like a lot of arming swords, surprisingly, were almost as long as most long swords, and you wouldn't think so, but they were.
And see that's the thing, when you get into swords that are much longer, like I said, you got to change your depth perception, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then like the topic tonight, what type of material is it made out of? So is it really, if it takes a hard hit, because you really have to structure a blade really well if you're going to make it that long.
You do.
Otherwise, it's going to bend or snap.
I lost the tip on that. Not the X00, but the original version of the Henry VIII that Azure Forge did. Matthew Jensen did a full review. There were a couple other of us that all got ones, but I know I just, after the Matthew Jensen, or not Matthew Jensen, Matthew Jensen. Yes, Matthew Jensen live stream with Peter Johnson and the other Johnson. Why am I Craig? I was like, you know what? Because this is absolutely a copy of one of, I'm just not going to release the review. And I told Azure Forge about it, and they were really cool because I gave them their feedback on it. But I was willing to do other stuff for them. But I broke the tip off of that one while doing a thrust because I hit my wooden stand, and it was the 65 MN steel. While it was strong, the tip was very thin, and it did snap a millimeter off the tip, which it happens. I'm a little surprised because it wasn't even that hard of a thrust, to be honest.
Yeah.
But again, when you're going with such a very narrow tip, maybe I went in
the
at
more
an angle.
the more you take off,
yeah,
the less structure you're going to have.
Right. Absolutely. And again, this is, I think I saw something about, I made a joke on Joe Steele's. He did a thing about people complaining about full tang knives. I'm not a knife dude. But I made a comment saying that it reminded me people complaining about whether a knife's full tang and it broke, blah, 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 doing whatever. I said to him, I think this is how I quote it. I said, that kind of reminds me of Hotel Transylvania. Okay. It's really weird. Jonathan meets Dracula for the first time, and he's like going through all this list of stuff that historically kills vampires. And he gets to one where he goes, well, how about a stake through the heart? Would that kill you? And Dracula went, well, who wouldn't that kill? And it made me laugh because I'm sitting there, goes, these people going, oh, well, it's not a full tang. The knife broke. I ran it over with an Abrams tank, and clearly it was because it wasn't a full tang knife. It's like, well, what knife wouldn't break under that? Like, you took a purpose-built tool, and that's what all these things are. They're tools, knives, swords, they're tools. They have a purpose. When you go outside that purpose, you're now adding in factors that don't necessarily calculate into what the designer originally intended it for, and they didn't plan for that. You know?
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what material you make it out of.
Right.
All steel breaks.
Yep.
It all has its breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, Matthew Jensen, I like his reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
But with a katana, that's the weakest point.
Yep.
Backside is going to be the weakest on a curve. It's almost
side's the weakest on a katana.
It's almost like an arch.
It's differentially hardened.
Yeah. Well, it's like an arch almost.
Yeah.
You could press down on top of an arch all you want. It's not going to collapse. But the moment you smack it from underneath, it's going to collapse. Because that's the weakest point.
Yep.
But if you can take a really strong
that's just
steel and
mathematics.
smack it on the edge repeatedly, and it's not going to break.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you turn it over like a katana, it's going to snap.
Mm-hmm.
So
same with differential hardening swords, like you said.
Yeah.
If someone were coming at me with a katana or something like that, I'm not doing anything with the edge. I'm stepping on the side because it'll bend. It's not designed.
Oh yeah, it will.
Even if I had a steel tip boot on or something like that, like a plated boot, and I tried to step on a katana like on the curve, the sharp end, I wouldn't hurt it. I stepped on the side though, because that's the weakest point, because it's not designed to be taking stress from that angle. Because of how differential hardening works, you're going to bend that blade in 2 seconds. You can make a pretzel out of it.
And it's funny that you say that too, because there is Japanese item moves where, because in Japanese, you move very little, and it's to conserve energy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the moves is you basically, because I was learning Tenshinu, Yoho, and one of the moves is you literally just step to the side, let the blade of your opponent come all the way down. And because once you get the momentum going, it's going to be hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So if the blade gets close to the ground, step on it.
Yep.
So you trap their blade.
Yep. You do that in Sekiro all the time as part of one of the dodges. You step on the back of the blade to trap it. And I'm like, I've seen people do that all the time. That was something you were often taught if a sword was coming down or a spear or something like that. If you could trap it, you can step on it. And that's it.
It's all timing.
Yeah. Yeah. If your timing's off, you might get
timing, and you hope the person you're against isn't more skilled than you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the thing with swordsmanship that really can be deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is you don't know if your opponent is more experienced than you are.
Right.
Until you start fighting.
One of the things that this is always funny, always stuck with me, and I'm making movie references like crazy, but Game of Thrones, when Jaime Lannister asked if Ned Stark is going to appear in the tournament in his name, he's like, "No, I don't fight in tournaments." And Jaime kind of teases him like, "Oh, you're getting a little too old for that, huh?" And he goes, "No, it's just when I fight a man for real, I don't want him to know what I can do. Like you fight in tournaments, you're showing off all your skills." And he liked that one. I thought that was really true. It's like, yeah, you want people to be surprised. And even we were talking about a lot of different duels in like in the manuscripts and stuff, and a lot of duels and stuff like that pretty much ended before fights really even happened, because a lot of times they were just feeling each other out to see what they could do. And we were talking about how like different flourishes and stuff at the start really could be a show off of this is what my skill level is, and most people might go, this might not be such a good idea to duel this guy. So how about we just gracefully bow out of this one,
Right. I remember when I used to fence and back in college, we would taunt our other opponent. So you have your foil, your rapier.
Mm-hmm.
You can get as low as you want. There's no rule saying you can't get low to the ground.
Yeah.
So what we do is we extend our arm out with our foil, and then we start tapping. And keep to draw our opponent in, to just make them flustered and keep tapping, hoping they'll make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So there are those little tricks in swordsmanship that you can do to try and get your opponent to show their hand.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there's whole guards in different systems like the Fool's Guard and stuff in European swordsmanship, which is a low guard meant to create a false opening, hoping the person will take it.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's like I'm sure you've heard this too in HEMA. Learn to read your opponent, and that is the number one hardest thing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
To read your opponent, to think what his next move is going to be by watching his body.
There was another meme that I thought was really funny. This guy is so funny. I wish I could remember his name. I'd give him a shout out, but he doesn't need my shout out. He's got millions of followers. But he does historical skits. And one of my favorites was sword fighting in movies versus in reality. In movies, he's like, parry, oh, man, this is just getting fun now. And then he do stabbing. And then he goes fencing in real life. Guys. Dang, bugger. He knew what I was going to do.
Yeah. That's why I always tell people,
waving the sword back and forth. He knew what I was going to do. Oh, man.
And that's why I always tell people, if you get the chance to duel safely with the proper gear, you need to do it at least once in your lifetime.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. It's exhilarating, and you'll find out how quickly your reflexes react. And you're going to go, holy crap, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard when blades are coming at you too. Sometimes they move a lot faster than you think. Like when you're looking at it from an outside perspective, you're like, how did they not catch that? I'll tell you what, when it's coming at you and it hits your blind spots and you can't quite see it anymore, sometimes you're instinctively parrying, hoping that's where the blade will be based on where it was before. And
exactly,
it's a lot of stuff you need to know.
I've watched some, not a lot of HEMA, and it's kind of like, it reminds me of when I took fencing. You go forward, back, or forward, back, trying to advance into your opponent. But then when I started taking tension, totally different beast. You don't always take your opponent head on.
Yeah.
You like have your opponent come at you and then shift and move your body to the side quick to get it in a hit as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really, it's a lot of Japanese swordsmanship. It's really weird. Whereas the European, you step, like quick steps forward and back.
Steps. Yeah.
With Japanese, it's more of a slide or glide. You're not lifting your feet as much.
And it depends on the system, because that's something that I struggle with in the classes I take, because I have a very wide stride and I tend to overextend because I'm looking at extensions the way you'll see it happen a lot in like some of the really deep rapier lunges. But a lot of like the Marazzo steps and stuff like that are like what I would consider a half step. It almost feels like you're trotting, and it's really hard for me to do because I feel like I want to advance further. But I also come from like a judo background and German longsword. And there's a lot of times in German longsword that's like, if you can get to a grapple, go to a grapple. I'm like, I'm ready for a grapple. I'm 6 foot tall, 200 and some pounds. Like, I'm ready for a grapple. Okay. Marazzo's like, no, keep at a distance at full length. And I'm like, I just want to get close.
Right. And they, even in both parts of the world, they did grapple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did.
Because if you get your opponent down on the ground on their back, you've got them.
There were quite a few times in free sparring where, we'd be, I'm saying fetter, but obviously like, we're in fort and stuff like that. Like this is where we're at. This would be a bind. It's like, what do you do next? My first impression is, okay, cross guard in the face. Like I'm up close. I'm not looking to disengage. I'm looking to push further in,
Yeah, if you're able to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the moment you start retreating, they're going to advance on you.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to try and defend yourself from that.
Yeah. Well, and there are moves like this. The one thing that we said about false edge, like Marazzo loves doing this, and I hate it because he does this little flip where he'll flip his blade around and strike up at the hands in a lot of cases with the false edge, the reverse edge, as we call the GTFO, get away from me kind of thing. Like you're just backstepping, but if anyone's in the way, you're clipping them and you're going back into a guard. It's interesting. And there's a lot of different systems and how people advance and even retreating while still trying to maintain a guard and an attack at the same time. It's neat. It's neat to see. I just like getting close because there's a lot of times I'm to the point where I'm like, we get up close, I'm ready to grapple, get you to the ground, and then it becomes a rondelle fight, like trying to gather everybody.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah, get them to the ground. That's it. We'll roll around in plate armor for a bit. But yeah.
So anyways, is there any other type of sword steel that you've either gotten recently or you favor the most for the type of swords that you have?
So we talked about a lot of the higher end sword makers using either 5160 or 6150. Albion, Valiant Armory, Stephen Lockwood, Arms and Armor, I believe all either use 5160 or 6150. I think Valiant uses 6150. That's what they have listed, but a lot of other ones use 5160. And we talked about that being a very popular sword steel. If I were to grab this one right here, which I will. This is my Albion Mercenary. And yes, that is my logo because this is a scabbard done for me by Andy Sinda. If you guys don't know who he is, he does amazing scabbard work. I'm going to just shout out him because he's fantastic. I have his card laying right up here. Low Valley Leathercraft. So people want to check out Andy's work. His stuff is fantastic. There you go, Andy. Free shout out because you're fantastic. You can even scan that little code right there if you want to see his stuff. Anyway, he does a lot of amazing scabbard work, but this is my Albion Mercenary. And this one, I believe, uses 5160, if I'm correct on that one. And again, this steel, I hear really good stuff about it, but a lot of people aren't breaking these either, and not because they couldn't. I think why am I drawing a blank on his name? Hold on, he's one of the biggest YouTubers, sword YouTubers out there. Skolagrim. I have a friend who has a gaming name that's similar, and I was about ready to say her name instead, and I'm like, that's not right. He broke his Albion Principe on accident while chopping into something. Because again, any steel can break. It's interesting because I don't see a lot of people breaking them, but also I think it's because people tend to be a bit ginger with these ones and not really very gingerly handle them and very careful
Yeah.
with them. Because they're expensive, roughly.
Oh, Albions especially.
Yeah. But not only that, it's not even the expense. If it was just the expense, I'm not saying I'm throwing $1,000, $1,500 around like it's nothing, because I'm not. But that wouldn't hurt as bad as having to wait 2 years to get a replacement.
Yeah.
It would suck if I had to buy a $1,500 sword again. I could probably do it, but it would still suck. Waiting 2 years is the problem. And so
Yeah.
I don't know how well this sword steel holds up, because I only cut with it a little bit. Same with the Valiant Armory over there, which I could get, but it's buried 3 swords deep. It uses a 6150, and I have cut tatami with it. It cuts really well. Again, very minor surface scratches from tatami, which generally happens with tatami. Tatami tends to scratch blades up. It just always does. But it's minor enough that it was like, yeah, that held up really well. So I didn't have any issues with 6150 either. But again, I haven't been doing super hard targets with them, because
and 5160, it's actually really tough. It's a little bit tougher than 9260, like we're talking. It's just the difference is 9260 has more of a flex to it. So you've had people have to really be abusing it,
right,
to break it. Like it's like we're saying, you're going out of the range that what it was designed to do.
Right. Like, and I think, to be honest, when Skallagrim broke his I'm hanging this up here again. When he broke his Principe, he was chopping wood with it, like literally chopping like 3-inch wide logs.
Yeah,
and he caused a deformation. Now, once you cause that, now you also got to remember the Principe is a very thin blade. 18Cs generally were very thin, like very thin. So he got a deformation in the blade, and he hammered it back into place. Cold hammered it too, by the way. So got it looking pretty good. And then I think he cracked it on one of those ballistic gel dummy zombie heads when it hit the bone. But where it broke was the exact same place that already had the deformation that he hammered back into place. And it was the exact same shape. So where the deformation happened, it just continued and chipped. Because that damage had already happened. And then by hammering it back into place, cold hammering steel, you're putting stress fractures in it, even at a microscopic level. That was a weak point. Naturally, it was a weak point. But what he was doing by chopping wood was outside the prescribed axis of a sword. Especially that kind of sword that was so thin. Knights who went into they didn't use their swords to chop down doors. They used an axe or a hammer. They didn't use their, that was not the intended purpose. No one would have been like, siege that door and take your sword and break into it. You used an axe, something that was purpose built to cut down wood.
Even Napoleon's engineers had an axe or a hammer.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't have used a sword for that purpose. No. And he was just doing it to show. Yeah, and it cut the wood well. Like it was doing amazing. But eventually, even that thin blade went. He kinked it a little too much, and it created deformation. But that was like one of the only times I know of someone who broke an Albion. Most of it was an accident.
Yeah, that's really disappointing too.
Yeah, I know that. Principe is not only a popular sword for cutters. It is also one of their more expensive ones too.
I bet.
I want to say $1,800 or something like that for the base model.
Wow.
Yeah. The Albion Mercenary they have up there is probably one of their cheapest ones right now, and I think I spent $1,200 on it or something like that. Which isn't overly a lot. And again, everyone has different budget. I'm not saying to make you, if someone's like, I can't afford $1,200. Okay, well, I couldn't either, when I first started out. I'm in a different place in life now than I was before.
And the thing is, just because, you spend a lot of money on a sword doesn't mean it's going to be the best.
No, honestly.
At all.
Honestly, that sword is probably not any better than some of my $300 budget ones, especially now. Where it does shine is fit and finish and historical accuracy. Like that is above and beyond what the cheaper ones do. Okay. But they all cut very similar.
Yeah.
They all take similar amount of damage. Like I have an $800 Valiant Armory Practical that uses roughly the same steel, either 5160 or 6150. It's $500 cheaper than the Albion, give or take. But it's roughly the same sword steel, but the finish and stuff they cheaped out on, not cheaped out on it, but you didn't get to choose it. They used basic fittings that just have a rough polish on it. It's not pretty, it's functional, does like better than well.
It's like this one right here that I have. Okay, so I don't use this one that much. I call it the cursed blade. This is the most money I spent on a sword in my collection. So this was like with tax and everything, $400. Now the reason why it was because this was supposed to be L6. It's not. I cut with this for the very first time.
Yeah.
And the very first time I cut with it, right in here, just on a water bottle and a Dr. Pepper bottle.
I could see the edge rolled. It's rolled too.
No, it chipped out.
Oh, it chipped out completely.
It chipped out.
Did you refinish it?
Yes.
I see a dip. I thought it was a rolled edge.
Nope. I had to reprofile it the best I could to get that, because one of the chips went down to here.
Oh, wow. That's a deep
chip. It chipped out that much. So when it finally came out that the company was like, no, they're not L6, you can imagine what I was like. Now, I went on to see if they still sold this. It's currently not being sold, but the last time I looked before that, they're still selling this at $400.
Not worth it.
And it's more probably like maybe $10.95 T10.
And you can get a 1095 katana for like $200.
Yeah.
Easy.
And I think people are saying, well, it's probably a T10. I've had a T10 chip out, but it was like real minute chip. So I'm thinking this is more 1095.
I have two old Bugay from 20 years ago that still use what they call their Swedish powdered steel. I don't know what the number is now. They don't use it anymore. And that held up really well. Now I do have some chips in it because I had cut into a stone accidentally while I was cutting. And it's just the minorest of chips. Like you could kind of see it and you can feel it definitely, but it's smoothed out on the Kasaki, because of course when I was swinging down, I swung down and I hit the ground. Again, that would have been considered abuse of the sword. It hit rocks, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect it not to get some kind of, and of course these are differentially hardened too. So those edges where the Homeland is much harder Rockwell than everywhere else. So of course it'll hold an edge, but and I think a lot of people don't quite understand the higher the Rockwell number goes up, the more rigid and stiff the crystalline structure is, and chipping will occur easier than like you could polish a 40 Rockwell hardness to a razor edge. It will dull in about 3 seconds, but you can do it. You could do anything to a razor edge. It's just how long it will hold the edge. The higher the Rockwell, the longer it will hold. But obviously, the more brittle it becomes. So that's why there's generally this little bit of a flex, and why Japanese swords in particular are so renowned as cutters, especially if they're differentially hardened, because their Rockwell hardness is considerably higher. Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people, taking your sword to where you can shave hair with it, you're doing a disservice.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you're taking more structure out of there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The only way you're
thinning that edge out too much.
It's thin. It'll be thin.
So you're weakening it actually. And on top of it, when you have it that sharp, that edge doesn't last you as long.
No. Oh, it'll cut like a laser for about 3 cuts, and then that'll be about it.
Now, here's your favorite.
Jabal Maki one. Yes.
Yeah. Now, this T10 blade.
Do they
you
actually
might
use
see some
T10?
scratches, but not bad.
Oh yeah, no.
T10 will scratch, but it's not going to be really noticeable because of the tungsten. My other one, the Dragonfly.
Yeah.
Stupid me, I had built a new stand. I forgot, you know the staples they put in there.
Yeah.
I forgot to take it out. And it put a tiny, tiny little chip in the edge. I mean, that was the one that was minute.
Yeah.
It took me 30 minutes and the blade was fixed.
Yeah.
But
a lot of times you could fix it, especially if the chip doesn't now let me rephrase this, on a Japanese sword, if the chip doesn't go deeper than the Hamon level, you can fix it and often get the edge back. If it goes past that point into the softer, then you've got a critical failure. European swords aren't quite that way because we're mono
they're mono
all the way through. But I mean, obviously, in terms of math, if you get a big chunk and it's thinner, well, yeah, it's going to be a weak point because there's not as much structure behind it, but it's not quite the same way.
Yeah, and I call these my like beast of blades because I don't know what Sawadi does, but they do a T10 blade really well. And I've hit my stand with these things.
And we talked about this before. The type of steel doesn't matter near as much as the heat treatment applied. You get a good heat treatment on something.
Yeah.
And that heat treatment can make all the difference. If you do well, obviously a perfect example is my SX105V.
Yeah.
The thing's dull. Like you said, I probably got one with a bad heat treatment. And,
probably.
And because of that, I'm not impressed with it. Like at all.
But and these Sawais hold their edge.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Their heat treating is spot on.
I want to get one, even though I'm not a huge
they're a heavy blade though.
Oh, I don't care.
They do have a taper to them. But they're a much thicker blade.
Katana Warrior series. You can't beat thick on that thing. That thing is
if you get one with the I will guarantee you, if you buy a Sawadi off Amazon, go to Amazon, the Jabra Maki is way cheaper.
Yeah.
On their website, it's $300 for them. You're not going to want to get another type of Edo wrap.
I saw Shadow Dancer. It looks like they're starting to offer that type of wrap too.
Yeah, $800.
Oh, I know. Well, the amount of work
it's not an easy wrap though.
No,
but they are those Sawadis are one hell of a cutter.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen
done
cut
trick cuts with them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're pretty nice. I like it's the thing that interests me, like it's when I buy Japanese swords, I like the weirder geometries. I don't want a standard not Shobu Shikari. I like Shobu. What's the standard one we always get? Hold on, I'll remember it here in like 3 seconds. It's gonna drive me nuts. What is the standard like the Edo period katana that everyone get? What geometry is that?
That's the Shinogi.
Shinogi, thank you. I knew it started with an S, and I want to say
Shinogi.
I don't want Shinogi. That's what everyone gets. I like the super weird ones, like the Morohas, the Hirozakuri, like the weirder blade geometries. The Unakubi. Thank you. I was about to go cormorant neck. That's all I remember. I like
that's what Unakubi means.
Yes, I only know it in English. So, but I like those weird geometries. So if I go after swords, that's what I like to find.
The reason why you see a lot of Shinogi Zakuri though is it is the most durable design. That's why.
Sure.
Besides that, the Shobu comes in second.
Really?
Yes. Because the Shobu
isn't the Shobu essentially a diamond cross section, roughly like an oddly shaped diamond cross section.
Yeah, it is actually. It's basically a Shinogi Zakuri with the Shinogi lines inverted upward to make the diamond cross section. The reason why they did that, less drag.
They don't have a geometric Yokote either, right? Or do they?
No.
Okay.
No, and they have the elongated tip.
Now, I love me an Okazaki.
Yeah. Now, granted, not all of them have to have that to be considered a Shobu, as long as they have that diamond cross section look to it. They're still a Shobu.
I mean, that's just math. What's the strongest shape in the world? Triangle. A diamond's just two triangles together.
And well, the reason why they did that was because if you cut with the shinogi, you're going to feel that drag on the backside because of the ridge line.
Well, that's why
they
neck one
made
so nice.
Or cross section.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing there to slow it. Kind of like an unukubi.
Yeah.
Instead of thinning it out, they kept the structure.
Yes, you still have that diamond cross section at the tip for that extra strength, but it has that same the diamond shape in the neck. And yeah, those things cut so well.
Yeah, they're awesome cutters. But yeah, that's why you always see a shinogi as a curry though, because it's the strongest structure.
Makes sense.
Like you wouldn't take a Motohara to battle because
you have a bogey on it too. You essentially create an I-beam structure along the back. It's very similar to a fuller system on a European sword. Creates an I-beam. A lot of strength.
Because like a Motohara is nice, it's fun to cut with. But with it thinning out and there's really no reinforced tip sometimes on it.
Yeah.
You're prone to maybe have your sword broken in battle. Because actually, technically, there's no historical evidence showing that it was ever used in battle.
I think that's something a lot of people don't like. The primary samurai weapon of the time wasn't even a katana. It was
a
yari or a bow. Yeah, yeah. Like one of my favorite games. I didn't play Ghost of Yotai. That one's too new. But I like Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, it's really funny when you play it because they acknowledge the fact that historical inaccuracy because you're running around with katana.
Yeah.
In 13th or 12th or 13th century Japan, they didn't even have those yet. Mostly they were using bows and spears. That was it. Like they didn't even have
tachi.
Those. And tachi, not katana. Yeah. But they went, well, if we do that, no one will know what we're doing because everyone just thinks katana.
Now they did have the tanto during that time, though.
They did. Yeah.
The funny thing was people don't realize what people don't realize. That's why. Have you ever seen my O tanto?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so O can either mean wider blade or longer blade, or both. O just means bigger.
Yep.
So what they did was originally the tanto blade's about 12, maybe 13 inches long. Well, some samurai were like, I don't like that. That's not good enough. I want a little bit more length for when I get really close. I can get it up underneath the armor. So they would double that length, which that's what I did with mine, and make it 16 inches. So I have a 16-inch cutting edge on mine.
Ooh, it's long for a tanto. That's real long.
And that's the funny thing is because the Wagasashi came in way, way later. So that point right there for the tanto, if you go past 16, you're now into Wagasashi territory. 16 is the cutoff line, basically, from what I've found on researching. But yeah, that thing, I love using that. My O tanto. It is fun.
I've seen you do stack water bottles with it. Yeah, it looks fun.
Yeah, I like when other people try and stack the bottles like I do.
I can't. I've given up. I'll sit there and try to stack. I'm like, I give up. Forget this.
It's
harder than
you have to have patience.
Yeah, I must not. I keep trying to do. I'm like, forget it. I'm done. I'll never get this cut because I'll never stack the bottles. Who knows? I could probably do the cut. I'll never know because I can't. I give up.
Well, it's like this guy. This is $51.60, $68.
And that's the thing we talked about. With modern advances in metallurgy, okay, minus heat treatment issues, even cheaper steels and stuff, or not cheaper steels, how I say cheaper swords, generally are using roughly the same quality steel because we're all buying from the same stores, the same stocks, the same steel producers.
You're paying for the blade.
Yeah. A lot of the money that comes into it later is really the fit and finish, like how pretty it looks, not its structural integrity. Now, some of it may come into the blade geometry, but we're not going to get into that. We're assuming everyone knows how to make a properly structured sword. The steel between a $60 sword and a $6,000 sword is likely not much.
No.
Honestly, the only time you're getting into you're paying for the smith more than you are the sword itself.
Smith,
or if it's traditionally made tomahawkane, again,
yeah,
you're paying,
or like the scabbard or whatever is carved, or more detail into it.
Someone's asking for a link for the $68 sword.
Oh, go to my I actually have on my first review a link to it onto Amazon. In fact, I just did a revisit, my final thoughts on this, and I still give it an A-, only because the ear wrap could be a little bit tighter and the sire rattle. Yeah. Otherwise, this thing would be an A+. I've done triples with this thing.
And to be fair, when you're paying that little, if you hate it that much, put a few extra dollars in to have it rewrapped. Yeah. Or rewrap it yourself. Learn to rewrap it. Yeah,
exactly. Or you can get a new handle for like $20 that's wrapped really good.
Freaking RVA Kadana will sell you the Suka alone, just right there.
But you are definitely getting $6 worth, and it's solid.
Right.
It is a solid sword, and it is nimble.
I would honestly say, for people who are interested in buying swords, the thing that is more important than anything is knowing that the people who are making the sword know how to make the sword the way it was historically made. And when I say historically made, it's because obviously they were using it in a battle, therefore they knew what worked best. That's why it's important that the blade is made the way a sword should actually be made.
Yeah.
And from that on out, as long as the steel is a known steel, there's not going to be much difference. When you start getting more and more expensive, you are paying essentially, what's the difference between a Walmart handbag and a Gucci handbag? Not much. They hold the same stuff.
No.
Price, maybe the material they use to make it look prettier, but in reality, if it's made from the same cow leather, there's only one type of cow, like that you're getting leather from. So really, it's you're paying for a brand name. You're paying for
it depends on what cut.
Yeah, what cut you're getting. Yeah. But if it's all if all columns are equal, you're paying for the fit and finish is generally where your money's going to come into.
So DZON's asking, the thickness of this blade. So here's the base. It's got actually a nice
that's
distal taper.
It does have distal taper, but I'm going to tell you what, I have a $1,200. That looks like roughly about the same. Just eyeballing, it looks roughly about the same thickness as my $1,200 Bugay Shobu. Like it might be a little thin, but here's the thing to remember. Again, steel is important. The thickness of the blade, that will make that a really good cutter. The thinner blade is less resistance. Now, if it's differentially hardened, I can understand wanting a bit thicker, because if your edge alignment's off, or you might have more chance of taking a set, right? But that obviously, if as your skill gets better, that might not happen as much. I mean, we can all flub cuts from time to time, but
with that one, it's not an issue because it's 5160 spring steel.
Oh yeah, well, if it's mono,
and it's mono, so it's just going to spring right back into place.
You would have to. I mean, spring steel can take a set, but the only way you're going to do that is if you literally get it stuck and then I'm going to bend it this way to get it out.
Yeah,
bend it like 90 degrees.
It's if you smack the stand, is going to go right back to where.
Yeah, it ain't gonna hurt it. You have, like, even spring steel will take a set past a certain bend threshold.
Certain point,
but that bend threshold is not something you're gonna do accidentally in most cases.
I mean, would I bend it to a 90? No. Now, would I bend a 9260 to a 90? Yeah, because it's designed to do that.
Yeah, right. yeah.
But it's a 5160 spring steel.
Their chemistry and how they're designed have different thresholds. They have different heating thresholds. They have different, if you're not even sure and you want to know exactly, guess what? All this stuff is documented. You can literally look up a type of steel and they will tell you what its heating point is, what its tolerance for bending is. They will tell you everything about it because it has been documented to the exact percent. You can bend it to 31.39% and it will still return true.
This one will take a beating like crazy and spring back into place and hold an edge a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's 5160, where this one will spring back. If you bend it at a 90, it will take an abuse, not as much as 5160, but this will hold the edge less longer.
Yeah.
Because 5160, you can actually differentially harden it, even though it's a spring steel. Because a lot of spring steels you cannot differentially harden. Like 9260, I think
you ruin the spring temper on them.
Yeah, I think it was either Ryan or Ronan. I can't remember which one. In the early 2000s, they were experimenting with 9260, and they were like, let's differentially harden it. That didn't fare well.
Yeah.
They were literally, they would cut like tatami or whatever, and they would just snap.
Yep.
Because you
ruin the temper
out of it.
It's gone. Yeah.
So they were like, okay, we can't do that.
That steel was designed for, and that's the thing that I say about everything. All these tools and the steels used to make them are designed for a purpose. They were metallurgically designed to meet certain thresholds required to complete a certain job, right? That's what they were done for. If you do stuff within those thresholds, you're not going to damage the blade. If you go past those thresholds, you will. That's the simple point of it.
And the funny thing is, like 9260 was developed, same with Hadfield steel, manganese steel, during the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5160 came later on in life. And that's what they make truck springs out of.
Mm-hmm.
And now your shock,
and that's
spring,
a lot of weight. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tons of weight being suspended on these springs. You know, they're designed.
It was known as the junkyard knife maker's steel.
Yeah.
Because they would go to the junkyard and get leaf springs. And knives out of them. Like I was telling you, Bowie knives used to be made from junkyard springs, and springs had numbers on them for the stack. And they would try to leave that number in there so it showed that it was 5160 from a leaf spring. Now, 9260 spring steel is on your shocks, the springs in your shocks, because it can take a compression a lot more than 5160. Because when you look at leaf springs, they're not really flattening out. They just absorb shock and bounce you back up. Whereas like struts and everything, they can wind up compressing all the way down and coming back up. Well, that's why the springs in it are 9260, because they're designed to they can take that force. You could take a 9260 spring and just flatten that sucker all the way out, let it go, and it's going to go flying, and there won't be nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Try that with 5160. It's probably going to break.
Right. Because it wasn't designed that way. Exactly. It wasn't designed for that. It's fat. And that's something I would say for anyone who's, it depends. Some people have different opinions on this. If you're getting a sword, even if it's Japanese sword, I never recommend differentially hardened for a first blade because it's not forgiving. Though I would say, now here's one of the things I would say, and if you have a professional who's training you, they may have different opinion. Spring steel can teach bad habits too, because it is forgiving. So
yeah, it is forgiving. Only, I mean, here's the thing I would say about, I always tell people, get a 9260 spring steel if you're just starting out. Now that I have 5160, a 5160.
Yeah.
It's not, I've hit my sand with my 9260 before. And I went, oh, crud. And checked it out. It was fine. Didn't chip it, didn't bend it, of course.
But you were.
So it's good for if you're actually have the mindset of, hey, I want to learn how to cut either bottles or tatami. It's a good starter because they don't cost a lot. and
Yes.
especially in nowadays economy.
Yes.
That's why I try and stick with around to 100, above 100 and below for people, because I know a lot of people can't afford sometimes past $200.
Right.
I do have some that are $200. Absolutely, yes. So
and not only that, but if you're
now,
starting out collecting, start low. And you know why? Because then you don't want to be like me and going and buying a. No, obviously as you can see from this is just one wall. I haven't done the other one, but I'm like a crack addict when it comes to swords.
Yeah.
But obviously you don't want to spend $1,800 on a sword and go, I really don't like collecting swords.
Exactly. So like,
let those $100, $200 swords be your gateway drugs.
Yeah, like
then you turn into me.
The 5161, it's $68, and it's a solid sword.
And those might be a good sword if you want to practice things.
Yeah. So, and once you start getting good at it, then it could just be your beater sword.
When I did that, well, I use this one for that. So when I bought this sword, I hate the fact that they have this silicone wrap. Now, Swordier originally got rid of this. Okay, that's fine. But I even told people, I said, here's the thing. This sword was $200. Okay. That was real. That still is very cheap for a European sword.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, practice leather wrapping yourself. It's $200. You don't have to spend a whole lot. Go buy paracord if you like. You can do a lot. The sword is so good by itself that even if this handle sucks, cut it off, rewrap it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone like there are people who can put Albion level grip wraps on this for $150. At that point, the sword's still only $350, which is still, really good for for a European sword. Yeah, there are some cheaper, whatnot. But like I said, you could have an Albion level grip wrap if you got someone like Matthew Cross to rewrap it. I think he charges $150 for Albion level wrap. You could argue that's almost the price of the sword, and that is true. But then you have a sword that won't. I mean, I've hit stands with this. I mean, I think I have a video and a short where I literally had a 3-inch block of wood, and I was cutting, and I hit the stand, and I literally chopped it in half with this sword. There's not a single glint, rolled edge chip on this sword, even though I hacked the 3-inch wood thing apart. Now, to be fair, it was cold, and I'm sure the weather had an effect on it, but still, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And it's like a katana. The beauty is it comes apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't like even the Suba, you can get a different Suba.
Right.
You just have to fit it to it.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty. If you spend only like $60 on it, like I said, you're paying for the blade.
Right.
That's what you're paying for.
Right.
When it comes to that. So on a katana, you could change all that out. And actually, you can do it really inexpensively and get good quality.
Absolutely,
you really can. I've gotten handles from Bohayu.
If you want
solid
to buy antique stuff, I've found antique Suba and things and pieces. Now, obviously, they're expensive comparatively, but you can get actual antique Suba and stuff like that, the ones that aren't as nice, for relatively cheap. And like they come from Japan. They're like really good stuff. And, obviously, when I say relatively, it's not the same as a bin part, but it's authentic, and you can. There's a lot of options you could do. So these cheaper blades, if the blade is solid, even though it's more work on a European sword, you could technically.
Yeah, I mean, if
it's a hex nut construction, you may have to rip it out. But like I actually, I got.
If it's pinged, you can always heat that ping up.
Yes, you could. Yes, you absolutely could. And I actually am going to do that on a couple of them. There are ways. It's harder on a European sword than on a katana. I'm not going to lie. It is. Redoing the grip's not that bad. Redoing fittings is more difficult. But like, I'll be honest. I got a bare blade from Swordier because it's a bare blade of the one that I helped design. So they sent me because I wanted a bare blade. I said, give me the bare blade. So they sent me a bare blade. I'm having Jesse Belsky do it for me. He does printed armor. He does fittings. He does amazing fittings. And he quoted me for it. And I think it was like $850. And he's designing everything and redoing the handle, everything like that. And his grip wraps and everything are fantastic too. So it's like the Albion stuff. So I took a $200 blade, and I'm making it essentially like an Albion quality looking sword.
Oh, there you go.
And it's just one that now, is that something I did? Yeah. If you can't even do it and you have more money to play with, you can, if you have a good blade. But again, you can get it even cheaper. Now, Jesse's not necessarily cheap, but he can do some amazing stuff. I wasn't looking for something cheap. You can do that. There are people who will fix things for you and get you parts and rewrap handles. Or if you're good at it, you can do it yourself. Or even if you're not good at it, you can learn a new skill. Yes, exactly. And like, if you mess up, oh well, it's not a big deal. If you messed up on a $3,000 katana redoing the Ito wrap or something, maybe you would feel worse about it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
On a $68 sword, oh, whatever.
Yeah, like in like the big difference. Okay, like the two I showed, the 9260 and 5160, those are both about a little over $60. Big difference. And yeah, they're both solid. Now, like the Swati, this is like over $160 sword.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever come loose on my Swatis.
Yep.
These wraps, they must be using Hishigami and glue on these.
Yeah.
Jabra Maki, because they don't move.
That's surprising. That's hard.
They don't move. You can move it a little bit here and there, like on the top surface, but underneath, they don't move.
Right.
And I've actually talked to other people who own these, and they've actually taken theirs apart, and it's a full Samigawa wrap on them.
They don't do panel. They do full.
Yeah, because I guess with Jabra Maki, you have to do full wrap, or it's going to show and bulge.
Yeah, I guess you would, wouldn't you?
The only issue I had with them, not this one, but my other one was Kosher would get loose, so I just put a little glue. But other than that, this thing is solid.
Kashira coming loose. If I were to point out one issue on Japanese swords, that is probably the most common complaint most people have. I can't tell you how many times I've heard Matthew Jensen go, because he does a lot of katana stuff more than anyone else on here. Complaint: Kashira's loose. Kashira's loose. Kashira's loose. Like, it happens a lot.
I want to say this was like 167, and it's solid.
I got 167, and again, I here's the one thing I also want to hammer in. What we're doing here is we're a hobby that, like at some point, I can't afford $167. I get it. There's some people who can't, but swords are somewhat of an expensive hobby. There are cheaper options. It is. And this is clearly a vanity thing. So if anyone takes offense going, "Oh, how dare you," and you're whatever because you say this, but I'm sorry, you're it's like collecting Warhammer figurines. It's not a survival thing. If you're collecting them and painting miniatures and stuff like that, you clearly have disposable income, and that's what we're talking about here. But it's just how much. And there are options right now for pretty much anyone. If you can't afford $68, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing swords at all. Maybe you should look at you have some other issues if that's
and that's why.
And I don't mean to say that in a mean way, but it's true. If you don't have $68 of spare that you can't scrape $68, you should probably look at getting more of your stuff together and figuring out other things before you worry about a hobby like this.
Yeah,
I don't mean to be mean,
that's why I stay in
that
spectrum. I understand a lot of people want to do the higher end because the higher ends are trying to get their name out there. Absolutely, I agree, 100%. But when I started my channels, like there's not a lot of people doing these lower $100 range swords or whatever a lot of the time. So that's why I just stuck with it.
5 or 6 years ago, a sub $100 sword was practically a wall hanger, borderline dangerous to use. I think that's what I said when I think what was my opening line on my first video with the $200 sword? 10 years ago, I wouldn't even cut with your hands with a $200 sword because it could have been dangerous. You know what I mean? Like they weren't well put together. Way the sword market has gone in the past 5-10 years has been amazing what they have been able to do. And the quality has shot up. Like the swords we're buying now for $100, $200, 10 years ago would have been the $400 or $500 swords, the $600 swords.
I remember when T10 swords hit the market.
Yeah.
They're over, close to $600 for those things.
Yeah.
They were expensive. Now,
I remember when L6 became a thing. That you weren't getting one of those for under $4,000 in most cases.
I am, because the Mursami one, the purple one.
Yeah,
I'm really skeptical if there is any actually L6 blades besides the Waltosaurus one.
Howard Clark. He did. I think Howard Clark does the L6 Bainite or something like that.
I think it was
Howard
Walter Sor.
Was it Walter?
I think so.
Samurai, you know this one. I know Samurai Bird would know this one for a fact. I know.
I think it's Walter.
Was it Walter? Because I still think I have DVDs.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I could. But
I think he's the only one that's done actually an L6.
He might be. I actually still have DVDs on forging a Japanese sword from Walter. They might be laying around somewhere.
So yeah, I'd be real skeptical of that one.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, like S5, there's S5s out there, yes.
But the only people doing those are
personally, I don't
Cloudhammer.
think we need it though.
I don't think so.
T10's pretty tough. We got some other stuff, just like we were talking about, you know, the manganese, steel, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all really extremely tough steels. That's going to take a lot to break them.
Yeah. Again, almost every single one of these swords. Okay, is S5 and S7 tough? Oh my goodness, yes. They're used in industrial jackhammers, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yes, they're tough. Is the normal person ever going to need that? No. Even people who are so terribly bad at cutting that they hit their stand every time, there are other seals like 65 MN that can take quite a beating before you actually start. Like, unless you're smacking into bluestone like Shad was, which was solely because they wanted to see what it could do, you wouldn't do that kind of thing.
No. And the most like 65 M or MN is going to happen to it is it's going to roll the edge.
Right.
But it won't
you
chip.
Can reset the edge.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to take a roll out than a chip.
It is. But
that's the most it's going to do.
And not only that, but you can get 65 MN for a lot cheaper than you can S5, because the only people doing S5 right now, because it wasn't designed as a sword steel, are the people like Cloudhammer, whose main job is actually industrial tools, and they're just doing this on the side because they have it. So because they're the sole provider, they set the price, and therefore the price is high. So
you're right. Yeah, it was Howard Clark.
Was I right?
Yeah.
Paul, okay. Sorrels does W2. Okay. Howard Clark has L6. Okay. All right. Well,
okay.
I remember something from 20 years ago. I just remembered to get a Howard Clark blade. Like, I think $6,000 is the starter.
Yeah.
Just to even engage with him. And you're only getting a blade.
You get an antique Japanese sword for that.
You can get it for cheaper than that. Shout out once again on the time period. Ashugaru Armory. I know I'm mispronouncing it, but Chris Goodall.
Yeah, I know.
There. Yeah,
but also, I mean, like if you're getting from a museum that sells them.
Oh yeah,
you could get one for that depending on the time period.
Sure.
So if you got $6,000 to blow, a modern one or an actual antique one, which one are you gonna go with?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a no-brainer.
But again, when we're talking about $6,000, it's kind of like, which Lexus are you buying here? It's like, oh, all right,
right.
It'd
be like you with European swords. If you could buy an antique one for $6,000, are you gonna get a modern one or an antique one?
Well, see, someone was asking me earlier whether or not I would get antique European swords, and I said to him, "Here's the problem: the swords that I like are 500 years old. There are none that you can." Well, I shouldn't say that. You can buy. There are ones in private collections, but you're not getting them for $6,000 because there's so few of them. The only people collect them are the people who are, multi-millionaire type people who it's just because they can have it as a status.
And that's the sad thing about European swords is because it wasn't preserved so much.
No, they weren't.
There's not that many. Whereas like you look at the Asian culture, it was more preserved and a lot produced.
In Japan, China doesn't have as many, I don't believe.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
But Japan used swords for a very long period of time.
Oh yeah,
like,
they got
much
there's
longer than
so
almost
many.
any other country. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because I said this to my son the other day because he loves like Civil War and Revolutionary War time periods. They're like more like the later Civil War. They still use sabers. It wasn't a main thing. It was more like a officer dress. But in the Revolutionary War, like I was telling him, I'm like, the small sword in 18th century was like a tie was today. You weren't considered dressed as a gentleman if you didn't have a small sword on your hip. Like that was just part of an everyday dress in the 18th century. I think we need to get back to that. I would much rather have a small sword than I would a tie, but that's beside the point.
You should bring that fashion back.
I agree. I'll tell you what, I don't feel quite as manly as when I walk around with the sword on my waist. I'm just saying there's something about it. I'm like, I like this. This is nice. But like, even by that point, they were more of a social dress than use. Whereas in Japan, they were still used. They have much long. So
it was
again,
both.
It was both. Yeah, you're right. But I'm still saying it was still more of a thing. Like even in Europe, yes, they would do it for duels and stuff like that, but it was less likely. It was still fashion over function in a lot of cases.
Well, fun fact, there's actually 2 countries in the world that still teaches their army to use swords.
Yeah.
The Philippines and Turkey.
Philippines and Turkey. Well,
they still teach their military to use swords. Yes.
I blew my son's mind when I said, do you know there was a modern sword added into the military after a firearm? He goes, really? I said, yeah. M1911 and then the M1913 patent saber. So the M1911 came out in 1911, entered U.S. military service, and then the M13 or M1913 was a patent saber that came in after that, 1913, as a standard issue meant for combat type sword. So that was as late as World War One. So they were still issued as primary combatant weapons, not just military dress. In
during World War One, they're still using sabers. Yes,
sure were.
Yep. Heck, they're still using horses.
That is true. That is true.
They were still using horse and carriage.
They were still using horses all the way up into Korea.
Yep.
Not as much, but they were. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
the Philippines and Turkey still teach their troops to use a sword.
Oh yeah. My lady,
because like
from the Philippines, and we were walking around. We actually got to see some people doing their harness competition, just like these different schools. These kids were amazing. They were double sword, dagger. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
If you're getting to close quarters combat or whatever, you weapons, both sides don't have weapons, you still have that sidearm.
Yeah,
you still have a sword.
Yeah,
I mean, what is your opponent going to have? A knife.
Mm-hmm. No.
You're going to have the advantage.
Yeah, you will.
So that's why they still teach them to use a sword.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they have to carry it on them.
No. Well,
but they have the choice to.
In the Civil War, when it was mandatory that they carry certain officers to carry swords, there was no military doctrine determining how sharp they had to be. They could be 100% blunt. No one would say anything. It was up to the individual person whether or not they wanted to use it.
I tell you what, you get whacked by a blunt blade, that's going to hurt like hell.
It sure would. I actually, I won't show it on here because I have to take my shirt off for that. But in my fencing class, I was still wearing my Gambison, which is 350 rated Newton, double layered. So it was technically 700. I have a welt right here from sword slash.
I remember those days.
From Fetter, yeah.
Except ours weren't thick.
Oh.
Fencing Gambisons aren't very thick sometimes.
No. Well, and the ones most of the students use weren't thick. I was using the one I do in my video, which is a Buhurt type armor. So it's thick and double layer. So I had double layers. I have a lot of protection, and I still got a welt.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the reason why is because you're really only supposed to be getting hit with the tip of the foil.
Yeah.
But when you're a beginner, everybody winds up slapping each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I had marks across my chest, on my arms, our neck.
Yep.
Even though we have that helmet, your neck's still exposed.
The newer helmets have 1600 rated Newton folds that go down almost.
Yeah, we
like
just had that one little flap right here.
Oh yeah, I can get
And
my
we had
helmet
like
over there.
this Mandarin collar that wasn't very high that came because you zip it up from the back.
Yeah.
And the little flap on your helmet was supposed to go underneath that little Mandarin collar. Well, it never stayed there. It always flopped out. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
I saw one time it was about, and there was this guy and this girl dueling, and it was intentional. It was all accident, but he got a shot, and it was a point. He came up and he thrust it and nailed her right here.
Ooh.
She was fine, just knocked the wind out of her. She was fine, didn't hurt her or anything. And she was like, "No, I'm good. I'll keep going."
I seen a video where I think the rapier snapped or something like that, and the guy got pierced through the shoulder with
during a duel, we had a foil snap and go flying across the room.
Yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. Well, I guess that.
I think we could probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, I'd say so. I had a lot of fun talking to you again. This was we had a lot of fun with this one. I think
I'm glad you could come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me, and I thank chat. They were active in talking and doing some.
Absolutely.
I see the Zon down there saying the Nepal army still teaches kukri combat too.
Yes, they do.
That's really cool.
Yes, they do. They just, if they draw the kukri, they don't have to draw blood anymore.
Oh,
because they would have, if they drew the kukri and didn't use it, they had to draw blood, so they would cut their left forearm. They don't do that anymore.
That's good. Your left forearm.
So old timers used to have tons of scars up and down their left forearm.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again for having me on.
Everybody for joining us, and John, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Oh, absolutely. We will.
Cool.
We will do this again.
Excellent.
All right, guys. We will see you all later, and thank you again for joining. All right.